Hey, FanboyNation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
You're watching.
We're watching. You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy. Fanboy.
Fanboy.
Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
FanboyNation.
Dot. I assume Tom.
Rob Yescombe, I got that right, is the executive producer and writer of the film Jackpot, coming out to Amazon through Amazon on August 15, directed by Paul Feig, starring John Cena and Awkwafina. Rob, it is great to see you.
It is an enormous pleasure to see you again.
It's been a while, but we're making it happen. Yeah. I love the concept of this film, by the way.
Thank you. Very kind.
You know, we're 6 years into the future. Anybody can cash the winning lottery ticket so long as you kill the lottery holder.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because my background is writing and designing for video games. I've been doing that almost 20 years. And when you are designing a game, you're looking to find like an interesting rule that's going to be an engine for different types of fun. Honestly, I was sitting around thinking about stuff for games, and I just hit on this idea. You know, I think it would be more fun as a movie. And it turns out I think it is, largely in thanks to Paul, of course, great director and a great cast.
And Paul is a very kind man, and has a great eye for cinema. So you picked the right person for that.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the greats. It's interesting because when I was writing it, before Paul and I even met, I was looking at Spy, which was the movie he did with Melissa McCarthy, and everybody remembers Statham's role in it. That to me was like a really key touchstone in trying to find the tone. And as well as that, before Paul and I even met, we were both independently going back and watching old Jackie Chan movies, because both of us felt like, we haven't seen something like that in such a long time. And the thing that we both love about Jackie's old stuff is that there's just like a joie de vivre to the action. That it's not about the bloodshed, it's about the circus and joy of performance, which I think, you know, our stunt team's done an incredible job on this stuff. And almost, I think, I should probably check with Paul if this is true. I think everything is in camera. I don't think there's anything that's CG in terms of the action.
Okay. That I wouldn't know as a hand, because I wasn't on set to be a part of it. So I will have to take your word for it.
I think that's true.
All right. The thing with John Cena, the perfect casting with this is that initially when John came out doing The Marine and a couple of other action films, they were trying to turn him into a straight action star. And John in the WWE was always humorous. He was always entertaining. And I think the action comedy is the definite right genre for John Cena. And he's found his niche with this. And especially with Jackpot and some of the other stuff that he's done, especially with you know, the DC universe and James Gunn with Peacemaker. So you guys are keeping him in his element where it's working for him.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you know, he knows exactly where he wants to go, and I think we were lucky that what we wanted to do was a perfect confluence of what we were trying to do, what he was trying to do. I mean, yeah, it's interesting. Cena is a really fascinating man because, you know, everybody knows about his Make-A-Wish stuff. Very kind, very charitable guy. Everybody knows that he's funny. Everybody knows that he's physical. He's also a highly intelligent guy. I mean, the guy, you know, any minute that he's not shooting, he's in the trailer. He's taught himself Hindi. He's taught himself Mandarin. Teaching himself jazz piano. Like, the guy is a legit genius, I think.
Well, he's pulled something up. I knew he taught himself Mandarin. I didn't know about Hindi.
Oh, he's amazing. And his hands, I want to say, are about this big. Like, the first time I shook his hand, I was like, well, that's the last time I'm ever going to see my arm again. That's it. It's gone.
That was the same thing with me with Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, yeah. I could say Lou's fingers are like this thick, aren't they?
You know, what was the catalyst to write a story where you got the notion of, all right, we wanted to do a video game, but this would be great as a film where it's set in the near future, and in order to claim your lottery ticket, you have to survive to get your name on the ticket and cash it out?
I think that the big thing for me is, yes, the video games is part of the inspiration, but it's also lots of other sort of like the smorgasbords of my interests, and part of which is you know, action and the stunt community. And it's actually pretty rare for stunt performers to either not be in like a I'm talking about people who are not playing the doubles for leads. People in a scene fighting against the good guys usually are in they're in a mask and it's sort of anonymous, and they certainly don't get to do anything funny. But stunt people are funny, and they love to act. And in this movie, we didn't want to do a thing like, oh, people are wearing evil masks or any of that stuff. Everybody's face is out. We're trying to show different types of people, which means we get to have a really diverse cast, not just in the main cast, but also in the supporting cast. Just a great way to showcase how talented, how funny those people are. But also, it just feels like an opportunity to... So seeing this character in the movie is like the world's nicest guy. That's kind of the backbone of that character, which does not tessellate with a world that's full of people who are not very nice. And so naturally, Nora Awkwafina is very suspicious of him in this movie. And that's kind of something that both Paul and I wanted to talk about a little bit, which is, it's nice to be nice, just for the sake of being nice, not for any ulterior motive.
And that's the important thing, because sometimes we need that in this world. And I think kindness has become a rare commodity, which is a sad thing in and of itself.
Well, I think it's still out there. I just think the environment in which we discuss ourselves as a species is sometimes obfuscates the actual volume of kindness that is within people.
I can see that. It's just one of those things that I don't know. Being in California for so long, I don't know if you've seen those videos or those memes. People on the East Coast are kind but say things in a mean manner. People in California are nice but are not kind, and it kind of has that whole vibe going with it.
There's a little bit of that, but again, I don't want to say anything ubiquitous about anybody. I think that every individual human is a complicated tapestry, and kindness is without question within everybody. We just need to find a way to draw it out.
What's something that you might think is mundane, or someone would think is mundane rather, but you thought it was a complete act of kindness that you did not expect? Like, to them, it was just average behavior, and then to you, you're like, wow, this really made my day.
To be honest, it happens all the time. Like if you're driving and somebody, something I became very conscious of quite early on as an adult driving was when somebody does something that you think, oh, that was a mistake, they screwed up, or we're sort of hardwired sometimes to think they're doing it to us. But in fact, it's just people mess up. People don't want to upset other people. It's an accident most of the time. And I love seeing, actually, no, let me retell that story. Let me take it from the beginning. When I was 17 years old, and I was still at, I guess, do you call it high school in the US? I forget
Yeah, so it would be year 11 or year 12.
I was in London, and there was another teenager in my class. I was walking to class, and he got into like a fender bender with somebody on the street. And he got out of his car. The first thing he said was, "I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" And it seems like to me, it seems like a normal thing to say, but at the time I was really taken aback. There was no trying to dodge culpability. There was no trying to deflect. He was managing his own emotions, which no doubt he was full of adrenaline and fear, having made the mistake. Sometimes it can be hard for people to control those brain chemicals, and it ends up coming out as anger, or ends up coming out as something else. But here was this young man totally in control of himself, and use that to be kind to the person that he might have scared. And that has stayed with me ever since I saw that. Outside of that, people are kind to me all the time. I would not be sitting here talking to you if I wasn't lucky enough to have people who were willing to stick their neck out for me. I just don't think you can exist without other people's kindness.
I dig it. I don't think people have realized that it's the little things. Everyone's looking either for the next thing or such, a micro examination of things where they're looking for the instant answer or a complete answer.
Right.
I have friends, for example, Presbyterian friends. You know, they believe in the John Calvin, John Knox ideology. Not to get into a whole theological debate, but
We're going deep for a little
for a comedy,
for our action comedy. But no, please, I think it's important.
And they believe that the era of miracles, or the age of miracles, has ended. And I think that is the furthest thing from the truth, because everywhere you look, the slightest thing can be considered a miracle if you open your heart and your mind to it.
Yeah, I mean, the likelihood of existence is preposterous.
Yeah. When you wrote the film, and then you finally connect with Paul, and you connect with John Cena and Awkwafina and Simu Liu, and I always butcher his last name, so sorry, Simu. You know, please forgive me for that. And you get this essentially dream cast for this comedy. Does the pressure become more so, or does it feel, you know, less than, and you can relax just a little bit as the producer because you can trust your performers and your director?
Oh, definitely the latter. I mean, yes, we were trying to build something big to begin with, but having those guys come on, you're like, wow, this is really going to monumental levels with the cast. But you know, people that talented want to work with someone like Paul. And it's not just because he gets the best out of people, it's because he's, as you were saying earlier, he's a kind guy. And I think, you know, without having done a forensic examination, I think basically everybody from nose to tail, from tip to toe on this movie, every person was in a good mood for the shoot, for the whole thing. And I think that comes from the top down, that comes from Paul. It makes me want to work with him, but also that joy that he galvanizes in people finds its way into the movie. So even if you're someone who's just about the end product, being kind is the right thing to do, or if you're someone who's about the philosophy of being nice, it's still the right thing to do. So I think that's why you get a cast like that. It's not just, you know, they were available. It's that they want to be part of that environment that Paul cultivates.
And then this is a real, you know, testament to your talent, is that you take a dystopian story with emotional messages that are relevant today, that we're trying to deal with, especially in this geopolitical world that we're suffering through, and yet made it funny, which seems to be the hardest thing right now, because people are having trouble finding the humor in things.
You're very kind to say that. Thank you. Comedy is such an essential part of going through serious times that, you know, it's like driving a car with no suspension if you don't have comedy. The ride is too rough. You need to be insulated. Doesn't mean you're not taking the world seriously. Doesn't mean you're not taking the subject seriously. But it's normal and healthy to laugh your way through it.
Yeah, and that's very well said, because I'll give you a personal anecdote. So when the pier a couple of years ago in Beirut blew up, when the firework warehouse blew up, I called my cousin George first thing, and I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah, we're fine. The window stopped blowing out about 3 blocks away." And to somebody that doesn't understand him having grown up in the civil war in Lebanon, you know, from the 70s through to the early 90s, and various uprisings and militias and certain things, to him being able to laugh at everything now. To them, they'd be horrified. To us that understand the experience and understand what our family went through, it's quite humorous. So, you know, when we can find true tragedy.
Not comparable to the situation there in scale. But I grew up in the 80s in London when the IRA were doing a bombing run, and yeah, after a while you can't cope with the seriousness of it. You need to find a little gallows humor to make it tolerable. It's an essential part of life.
Yeah, and you were able to find that in real life with the IRA situation. My cousin was able to find that in Beirut, and you were able to translate that a bit to this film with the humor, because yes, it's serious that you can get assassinated at any time for a winning lottery ticket, yet you made it funny.
Thanks. I mean, that's testament really to the cast and to Paul. Yes, you know, the script does a lot of that work, but Paul has a very inclusive style, which means that the cast get to who, I mean, nobody know. I know those scenes. Paul knows those scenes, but of course the cast know them better than anybody. So for them to be in the moment, Cena, again, intensely smart, intensely funny guy, such a great improviser, and so unassuming is that, he'd be sort of low key when the camera's not rolling, and then when it goes, he just suddenly has line after line after line after line. And the way that Paul likes to put things together is, for every joke opportunity, he's going to shoot, a dozen different versions of it, and then in the edit find, well, this is the right one to put in here. So when you're working with great improvising process like Cena and Awkwafina, you really it's an embarrassment of bridges.
I've asked this question of people that are the writer and the director, and how difficult it is to divorce themselves from the page because they know what they've written, that the scene might not be working on camera. But I don't think I've ever talked to somebody who's the writer and producer with a director in the middle. How do you divorce yourself from the written word on the page and not exert that producer power over the director of, no, that's how I wrote it, you have to put it in? Like, where do you eliminate the ego and the hubris of your own personality and let go of the reins to the director?
Well, first of all, I'm at the bottom of the list of producers, so I'm not going to start wielding that kind of power. But no, look, it's about chemistry and trust. Paul is a master of his craft, and he's not the sort of person who's possessive. Neither am I. I mean, I've worked a long time. This is my second movie, but I've worked a long time in games where you have to have a very collaborative attitude. I think if it's some, if early on in the process I felt like, oh no, the director doesn't understand the script, they're in trouble. But when you've got someone who is as smart and good at reading, like a deep reading of the material as Paul, that problem doesn't really come up. And actually, the reason why you work with someone like Paul is not only is he going to understand the material as written, you're also bringing him in because of his skill set and his tone and his vision of stuff. So to be honest, to me, it was more exciting to step away and let the man do his thing.
Understandable.
And boy, did he do it.
Well, Paul's a very talented guy. Even if he has a movie that isn't a hit, it's still visually beautiful.
Sure, yeah, he has a great eye. I mean, he's a very clearly from just the way that he presents himself, it's impeccably well dressed, very visual minded guy. Really a great artist and a Renaissance man, I think is the term.
What would be I know fashionista is the feminine version. What would it be in the masculine version? Feministo or something like that? Fashionista?
Dandy, I think, maybe. I'm not sure if that's the right.
Dandy would be the English translation for sure.
Maybe it's something like that.
Yeah, that might still have a negative connotation, but yeah, I think that's.
I think you can take it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask this about video games. So I haven't been a gamer in quite a long time. Like, I haven't played video games in a while. And when I did, when they got to that point of it takes 200 hours to finish this one game, I was like, let's go into sports and fight games so I can pick it up anytime without having to, go hours upon hours. I've heard from gaming fans that they don't like the direction of the way the video game industry is going, or, whether gameplay or storytelling or whatever it is. But I haven't paid attention to the numbers. Have you noticed anything from that aspect?
I think, honestly, the games industry is creatively diverse than maybe any other creative industry. I've had the great pleasure of working on, tiny little projects with just a couple of people in the back room up to, great big, massive Ubisoft stuff. And all the way along that spectrum, these are the most talented people in the world. I think I agree with you about the scale of games. I think that for my personal taste, I don't think they should change because people enjoy them and buy them and play them. But for me, yeah, I don't have the time to sit down and play 100 hours or something. I really got deep into VR. That's my passion now, because those are much sort of, I would say, it's like I used to sit down and play like 3-4 hours a night on a flat game, i.e. a non-VR game. But in VR, like, you do an hour and it's like a rich chocolate cake. You feel satisfied from a smaller piece. So if you haven't gotten to VR, try it. You'll love it. It's amazing.
I tried a VR game once, and the fact that the entire world is encompassed just in this 6-inch area, I know I'm going to walk into a wall. I know I'm going to bump into something or trip over
Oh,
something unless
no,
I'm
no, no,
seated
no,
there the
no,
whole
okay,
time.
okay, hold on. Let me evangelize.
Yeah.
So if you take the Meta Quest 3, right, it has inside-out tracking, which means you don't need external sensors to see where you are. It sees where it is, and so it places you in space. In the setup for that device, you draw a virtual line on the floor where you see through a camera what your real room looks like, right? You say, oh, well, you tell it the sofa is here, the chair is here, the wall is here. If you get close to that space inside virtual reality, it will paint a wall into that space so you know, oh, I don't bump into that. So you don't do a thing where you're like, you see all these videos of people like whacking a wall and all, like that doesn't happen anymore. Those days are long gone.
Okay, because that's the last time I tried it. I was like, no. And I saw the video of the guy like being scared to scale on the platform over a bridge or whatever, and his wife just kicked him over. And I was like, that's just rude. That's cause for divorce.
I love that plank experience. I love to put people in that. To be a little hot tip for anyone who does play the plank thing, get a fan, and so you feel like the air is blowing on you when you get to the edge of the plank. It's amazing. Really, really, really scares people. Fantastic.
Now you're just sharing cruel tips.
I know I said that the thrust of this is the importance of kindness, but it's also important to scare people. People need to be terrified.
It's that adrenaline rush, and you give us a bit of an adrenaline ride here with Jackpot.
What a segue! I love that. Look at that. He's a master of the craft. Just brings it right back.
We got to bring it back to the movie because it comes out August 15th through Amazon. Is it going to be in theaters, or is it going straight to Amazon Prime, or is it going to be like a hybrid thing?
Straight to Amazon Prime. Yeah, so only on service. Friends, get in there.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing. So I used to love the movie theater. All right, until everybody started playing on their phone in the middle of a movie. And the last Spider-Man movie, when that one came out, there was a guy probably about 20, 22 years old, checking his text messages in the Spider-Man film. I was like, what more important thing do you have right now that there are 3 Spider-Men on the screen that you're like, oh no, I got to check what's going on. Like, unless you're a doctor or your stock just crashed.
Maybe he was texting someone who was urgently bringing him diarrhea medication.
Could be that too, but like there has to be like a limit to it. Like you can't be playing Candy Crush in the theater and then watching your film or anything else.
Indeed.
Yeah. But the joy of watching something like this at home, I have a large screen TV, so it's almost a cinematic view for me. And, having that 4K experience in the house makes it a little bit easier. When you get to sit there and do that, and yes, there are the home distractions and you can come and go as you please, but there's something to be said about watching with your friends at the house and then watching it at the theater and then having the discussion afterwards. Of the two, how do you enjoy consuming your films?
I think it depends on the movie. I mean, I think about some of the great theater experiences I've had. I remember I went to the opening night of Seven back in the 90s. That was crazy with an audience. I remember going to see Borat on opening night and seeing the hotel scene and just having a crowd explode with laughter. I think a thing like this plays great in theaters. It would be great if Amazon wanted to throw it in some theaters. Why not? Couldn't hurt. But also, I think people like to be able to sit down and relax and say, okay, I need something that's going to put a smile on my face and send me off into the evening feeling good about life. And that's what we're here to do.
All right. So what is the go-to snack that we need for something like Jackpot, since we're going futuristic in the film, video game vibe, yet, a hopeful dystopia. Let's put it that way.
Okay. I mean, it's got to be, okay, let's build it. Base spaghetti. But instead of meatballs, lemon bonbons, and that way you're getting a little bit of candy in there as well, but you're also getting a slightly more complex carbohydrate, so you don't have a crash halfway through the movie. And then for the sauce on top of the spaghetti, I'm going to say, oh God, what are we going to put on there? Do you guys have that thing in the States where you put the chocolate sauce on ice cream and it goes hard?
Yeah, we have that at Dairy Queen. Like they'll take the chocolate sauce and then dip the vanilla cone in, and it becomes a hard shell.
Let's put that on there.
All right.
That's a normal meal for any sensible person who wants to watch this movie. Please go ahead. Don't sue.
Listen, I know British food is bad, but the fact that you're mixing dessert with spaghetti, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of our best dishes. Please no disparaging the British food.
I will disparage the British food in this. The fact that your guys' food is so bad that Indian food had to become the national food of the United Kingdom is telling me
Yes.
that fish and chips was not sustainable.
Correct. Yeah, fish and chips for every meal is the kind of thing that's going to give you a nice big aneurysm real fast. So yes.
You know, that and the meat pies.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were originally used as weapons in the 1800s. We turned them into food.
No, I thought that was the scones, because those can get hard pretty quick.
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, I think those were originally used as some kind of rivet in old carpentry in Victorian times. I think. I need to verify that.
Yeah, I was thinking they were in the catapult or in the slingshot or something to that extent. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, they are actually. Well, it is a war crime to eat a scone.
Right, day-old scone will do that to you.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, that's something for the sequel of Jackpot, is just chucking day-old scones at people.
Do you know what? I'm gonna hang. Let me just write that down. Day-old scones sequel. Love it. Sold.
So when you do sit there and you write this, there has to be a moment where you're just free-flowing in the writing, and you write something that's so inherently humorous to you that you're about to fall off the couch laughing till you realize that the general audience would see this scene if it was produced and go, oh my God, they're going to think I'm a complete psychopath. Was there ever a moment in that?
Oh God, I think really the most dangerous thing for me was just writing insults that Awkwafina throws at Cena. So there's a lot of stuff in that she says to his face that I would never say to his face, and he knows, looking across the set, I'm the one who said it. So that to me is a high risk situation to be in. She says, what's the line? She says to him, "You're for someone who looks so much like a giant ear, you're a terrible listener." I don't think he liked it the first time he heard it.
Right. Well, the fact that John is my height, he's 6'3", 6'4", and she's all of 5'3", you know, and your words are coming out of her mouth as a buffer, kind of indicates something.
That's right. Just keeping her as a buffer for my own safety.
You know, with the way everything's working out, and you know, we're finally getting back to a point where we can laugh and we can have a good time. You know, why should we drop everything on the 15th? You know, fire up the TV and on a Prime Video, Amazon Prime, watch Jackpot.
Why? Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, I'm going to cry. I'm a very sensitive person. I don't know if that's the strongest pitch, but somebody out there is going to take pity on me, please. And if that one person could just watch it 60 or 70 million times, we're there.
You make all your money back with one person.
Exactly. They just need to commit.
You know, there's been a lot of films in the last half decade that have just been disposable content. And with Jackpot, what I think you've been able to do is create a film that, and I'm going to say this with a compliment once I put it in context.
Okay, right? Bring it on. Let's hear it.
That's like Idiocracy. You know,
that is high praise to me, by the way. I revere that movie.
Right. But because the title of the movie sounds insulting, and so I don't want you to take the title of the film as insulting, but how it's found its audience and it's become, you know, a crystal ball into what has become. You know, hopefully we don't kill each other over winning lottery tickets, but, you know, that we'll be able to see the future and go, yes, we were so ridiculous, and we're even more ridiculous so now. And Jackpot will have a foothold in something like that. Like, oh yeah, they did something like that in Jackpot, and here we are.
I hope so. I mean, we've seen lots of movies about dystopias that are dark and bleak, which, you know, have enormous value, have their place. But it seems pretty rare that we have some that really talk about how stupid dystopias are and how ridiculous and silly they are. Idiocracy is a high benchmark. It's an incredible movie. Definitely an influence, I suppose, if I think about it. That is a compliment. I take no insult from that at all. Thank you.
I do want to thank you for one thing with your dystopian film. Most dystopian films that I've reviewed in the last 2 years, I've told the writer the same exact thing, and that has been, stop giving world governments ideas in how to oppress us. And in this one, you make a humorous dystopian film so that, God forbid, if we ever reach this point, at least we can laugh at ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, in the movie, we have a rule in the lottery, which is that you can't use guns to shoot people. Part of the reason for that was it makes for more interesting action design, because you're like, okay, well, they're going to solve the problem in a more physical way, in a more sort of Jackie Chan style. But there's also an undercurrent there saying, well, wouldn't it be nice to, if we are going to be dystopian, maybe we could just edit a little bit of that out of society a bit.
Yeah, and you can give us some Drunken Master and Super Cop and everything else that goes along with it.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, the ladder fight in Jackie Chan's First Strike, that to me, best of the best. Love that scene.
The fact that Jackie Chan is pushing 70 and can still move the way he does, makes me want to suck down the spaghetti with the lemon drops and chocolate sauce.
I mean, at this point, how old does he need to be able to beat him up? I'm going to say it's got to be like 130.
I think so. He's got to reach that point of he finally hobbles onto a cane, and that's when we have a chance.
But he's going to kick the cane up. It's going to hit me in the eye. He's going to be ready for us.
Right. It's going to be a no-win situation with Jackie Chan.
Agrees.
Yeah. Rob, where can we find you on social media if we want to connect with you and continue the conversation about Jackpot on August 15th?
Yes, please. On all socials, I'm at Rob Yescombe.
Rob Yescombe, it has been a great pleasure. Let's not make it another decade before we talk again.
Right. Yes, please.
Yeah.
I'll try and make another movie quicker if that's okay with you.
All right. We'll make that happen. Hopefully, I'll get to do a set visit for that one.
I would love that. What a good idea.
Set visits are the most fun because I get to come hang out and I have no responsibility whatsoever.
Listen, somebody's got to eat all that spaghetti and lemon drops and chocolate sauce, which is the only thing we serve on set. So get ready.
Okay. No Cadbury, because if you had a couple of Cadbury chocolates, then you'll never get rid of me. But
we'll look into it.
All right, Rob, thank you so much for your time. And Jackpot comes out through Amazon on Amazon Prime and Prime Video August 15th. It's a pleasure to chat with you.
The pleasure is all mine, my friend. Good to see you.